Yanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Yanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gaganasarusham Tattvamasya Dilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Satgurum Tam Namami. Welcome to another episode of Nithyananda Leelas. I'm your host, Ma Nithya Maya Nithyananda. And today's show, I'm doing solo because I wanted to cover a topic, a Leela, that's one of the grander Leelas that's happened around Nithyananda. And it's about the sex scandal that happened. And it happened, the whole thing erupted in 2010. And just to sort of rush to the finish line, it's already been proven that the sex scandal was not of his doing, that it was an extortion attempt by Sun TV to get money out of him. And unfortunately, he went through years of hell and, bad publicity and smear campaigns. But as he said, through the whole thing, he kept telling us devotees, he said, don't seek revenge. He said, you have no idea what's going on here, which is true. We were just astonished and baffled, and we didn't know if it was a witch hunt or what was going on. But in 2014, the CEO of Sun TV resigned, and he held a press conference. His name's Saxena, and he held a press conference admitting that they had created a morphed video, a fake video, showing Swamiji in a compromising position, and they threatened to upload the video to YouTube unless he paid them money and gave them land. And they don't understand that when an avatar lands, they are here to bring down corruption, to end the crime going on, to bring the status of humanity up. So there was no way he was going to just bow down and do what they wanted and to keep his reputation intact. He just basically said, bring it on, and all hell broke loose. This video was uploaded from thousands of sites, and so what I want to talk about is not so much the nitty-gritty of it as how it affected my life, because that's what the Leelas are all about. The existence creates these Leelas, and then to see how you'll respond, to see how you will move through this game, this performance, this latest film that you're involved in. And I had just met Swamiji once in 2009 at a one-day Kalpatara program. And it was lovely. It was just beautiful, and we sort of swam in bliss, and I got to meet this rare creature, this guru, and I had no idea what to expect or what gurus were, but I had a great day. And after that, the group of us that drove to Vancouver from Calgary were so excited by the energy, we wanted to keep it going. So we held a weekly meditation group using his Nitya meditation technique. And so once a week, this was the highlight of the week, was to swim in bliss, meditate with friends, have tea and cookies afterwards, and just talk about life. And it then ended up expanding. I was living in a small town outside of Calgary, and people started asking me, well, would you hold a meditation group here? I was in Okotoks, which means it's a sacred big rock. So I started a meditation group there, and then before I knew it, I had 5 towns that I visited weekly to put on these free meditations. And without fail, this Nitya meditation technique created spontaneous healing, brought immense peace to people, and we could feel Swamiji's energy hit the room. And you have to remember here, you're not talking about a guy. You didn't feel a guy's energy hit the room. You're talking about source coming through a human body. And so that energy is available to you whenever you call his name. That energy will hit that room. And we all experienced it. So the groups I was meditating with, they had never met Swamiji. They didn't know who he was. Very few of them watched YouTube even. They just had profound experiences connecting with that energy. So when this big so-called scandal erupted and everyone's screwing around playing this video on YouTube, I started to get phone calls, and they said, what should we do? And I said, well, I don't know what's going on. Maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. I don't know. But I said, for me, the technique is flawless, and I want to keep meditating. And they went, oh, okay, that's all we needed to hear. So in my neck of the woods in Canada, it wasn't a big deal. It was sort of a non-event. We just carried on with his teachings. Whereas in India, it turned out to be a very big event. And it turns out this is how you can completely collapse somebody in this country, is you can lie about them, say falsehoods, and ruin their career with no repercussions, which astonishes me. The fact that when this sex video hit the airwaves, Swamiji was arrested. And they say that never in the history of India has someone been arrested for no crime, no evidence of a crime, no witnesses, nothing. They just threw him in jail. And then when everyone started to go, well, what are the charges? Then they scurried around. Took them a long time. They finally found a woman to pay to say that she had been raped by Swamiji. And of course, way down the road, years later, it was proven she was in the US, where she's a citizen, when she claimed she was here, being attacked. So it was a very strange, murky thing. But what these Leelas are, these Leelas around these gurus, is it has the ability to move everyone to a higher level or collapse them. And once everything had settled, as Swamiji said, he realized that it shook out people out of the organization who were here for the wrong reason. That he said the fat has been removed and what's left are diamonds. And so when he was released from prison at the start of 2010, I was invited to come here and write for him. And it was to start getting positive articles out there to combat all this smear campaign that was still going on. And we're still having to deal with it. What I'm finding about the World Wide Web is it's a great information source, but also once something's up there, it's up there. So I still get people who Google Paramahamsa Nithyananda and they find these sex tapes, and I say, the CEO of Sun TV admitted that it was an extortion attempt, that it's a fake video. And, we're trying diligently to take them down, but unfortunately there don't seem to be repercussions for people who play something that's fraudulent. So anyway, I came to India in 2010 to try and help get the good news out about what he was doing and, how he's not what the yellow journalists are saying. And I arrived here not knowing what to expect, and people who tried to keep me from coming, I just said, what, I'm a grown woman and I like to find out things for myself. I don't like being told who to vote for. I don't like being told, what to do with my life. I make my own decisions. And I said, I'm going to go and find out for myself. Like, is he a fraud or is he the real deal? I want to know. And people realized they couldn't really argue with that. Like, go find out for yourself. Don't just be the sheep mentality and follow what the guy at the front's doing. And if the guy at the front's walking off the cliff, let's just and walk off the cliff. I said, I'm going to go and I'm going to find out for myself. And what I found was this jewel of a spiritual community. I couldn't believe that this existed on the planet. And I realized I had been looking for this feeling, this energy my whole life. And you can't explain it. Unless you've come here, you don't understand the deep feeling of peace and having the anxiety leave you and the stress, and just, they call it causeless bliss, is one of the states that you aim for in the Hindu tradition. And you just wake up and start giggling. There was no explaining it. It's a village atmosphere. There's nothing luxurious about it. It's everything you need, but nothing fancy. And I was just ecstatic. Loved my bunk bed in the dorm, and I loved the meals on the tin plates. Like, everything just brought me such immense joy. And as a thank you to the people who trusted Swamiji and believed in him, he put on a free program for 7 weeks called Living Enlightenment Process. And that was the most massive turning point of my whole life, because I had been reading New Age books, and I worked in a metaphysical bookstore in California for a while, which was a dream job. And I so I pretty much read every author that was out there, Eckhart Tolle and Louise Hay and, some of the flakier ones, and little books that said, life was never meant to be a struggle, and just this potpourri, creative visualization, and some of the masters, Autobiography of a Yogi about Paramahamsa Yogananda. And I had been an observer, sort of a scientist looking into this metaphysical realm. But when I got here, I started experiencing things. And it absolutely blew my mind open, because I had always hoped beyond hope that sci-fi and fantasy was real. And what I was finding was it was. And so whenever we traveled out in public, of course, people would make fun of us and throw things. And it was surreal for a Canadian I've never been attacked or had prejudice against me. And all of a sudden there was this whirl of weirdness whenever we went out to visit a temple or take a bit of a road trip. But it just made me stronger and stronger, because I thought, I am going to protect this man no matter what. Like, this is so wrong. They have no idea, and they don't know how much they're harming themselves. Like, when you make fun of a divine being, it's like, you better watch out, because existence will not tolerate it. And a lot of the people who were involved in this campaign against Swamiji have met with some horrific ends. And as he says, don't seek revenge, Kalabarov is on the job. So existence registers when somebody has committed a wrong against one of its own, and it takes care of them. And that's basically what happened with Swamiji. He, other than learning the legal hoops he had to jump through to make sure these people couldn't keep doing what they're doing, that they couldn't just extort from anybody, he was very diligent about following the law and bringing these cases successively to a close. People tried to grab land. There was all kinds of corrupt developers that got involved and tried to use the opportunity to grab temple land from him, and it was quite a show of corruption. And what has happened is, bit by bit, laws have changed because of what happened to him. There's now a law in India that a woman, if she's raped, she has to get to the police station within 24 hours, and within 24 hours they have to do a rape kit on you. That's for your own protection. That will prove that the crime has been committed and that the proceedings can happen. You can't 10 years later just decide you're having a bad day and start slinging rape charges at people. And it happens worldwide. A lot of these angry women, unfortunately, are making it so hard for women who've actually been at the end of a crime, involved in a crime, and they can't proceed because these strange women who just want to do sort of seek revenge on a next lover or something, they're corrupting the law for people who actually have crimes to report. So anyway, that law has been improved. There's been a lot of injustices corrected because Swamiji was willing to stand up and just keep going and going and going. And while we were here at the ashram in his living enlightenment process, one day police came and arrested him again, illegally, of course. They still had no crimes against him, but they still stormed the place, grabbed him, took off. And so that morning when we all assembled for the course, one of his senior swamis was just beside himself, and he said they've grabbed him again, and how much do we have to withstand? And he was so emotional, and we all were just feeling helpless. And so he said, who here is willing to sign a petition in blood? Of course, we all put our hands up. So they brought the medical team in, and one by one we signed our names, and they pricked our finger, and we put our thumbprint. And I hope this documents in the museum or the archives, because it was quite the day. Like, everyone just quietly waited in line, went up to the front, signed this petition, and just all of our intention was, we are going to make this right. We are not going to let you take this man from us. And for me, it solidified the guru-disciple relationship. I realized that I felt for him beyond my understanding, that I had never in my life experienced this need to protect. Even though I have a child, my own son, I had never experienced this profound sense that I would do anything to help him. So we all signed our, signatures in blood, and they stormed off to the police station with a petition, and Swamiji had already been released. He had already come out, and so when we assembled after lunch, he was on stage, and he was just sort of very sheepishly grinning at us and going, "I heard what you guys did," and he's like, yeah, he gets kind of emotional sometimes. Did he really get you all to sign a petition in blood? And we're all, yeah, we did. And the look on his face, and he said, "For what you've done for me," he said, "my blood is now your blood." He said, "Whatever you do in my name, I will keep your word." And the feeling inside me, I felt like the universe had dropped in and just made itself at home. It's sort of like, okay, it's you and me, kid. Nobody's ever going to hurt you again. No one's ever going to do you wrong. You can now live a magnificent life. And when I returned to Canada, I told that story to some of my friends, and one of my friends had just gotten a shock that it looked like she might have cancer. And we were having coffee, and I didn't know how to respond. And she said, "Well, heal me." She said, "Swamiji said his blood is your blood, and whatever you do in his name has to come true." And so I was like, "Oh, okay." And I didn't really know what to do, so I sort of just put my hands behind her and, thought of Swamiji. And sure enough, they did one more test on her before they were going to operate on her, and there was no cancer. She was clean. And she said, they might have their reasons for, it's because it was a different test or this or that. But she said, "I know you healed me that day in the coffee shop. I know Swamiji came through." And that's been my experience of him is, say what you like about him, or, don't even try and convince me that I'm deluded. I have experiences that people don't have in their lifetimes. And when you reach that state, when you experience that frequency, you know that all of these attacks are just corrupt people trying not to lose the status quo. And one thing that I realized was when these avatars land, they are here to wipe out, Kali Yuga, the age of hypocrisy. He is here at the end of that age. And everyone whose life is based on corruption, stealing, lying, they will not make it in this high frequency. And as Swamiji has told us, we're already existing in Satya Yuga, the age of truth, in this ashram, because the frequency in here is so high compared to the outer world. And you can feel that drop in energy when you go out. You can tell that there's such a dimensional shift when you're out in the world, especially if you're in a mall, which is, to me, one of the most frightening places. And sometimes I wonder if people can even see us. It's reached that kind of level where you're involved in a grand experiment and that humanity is being raised up. And the one thing that Swamiji has said about going through that whole scandal is, how it matured him, it matured the mission, and it kept people from joining for the wrong reasons. Like, you better feel that connection in your heart before you walk in the door. Because if you're just in here to play games or dodge the outer world or something, you will not be able to withstand the drilling that happens and him forcing you to face your incompletions. And that's what I noticed. Like, as he says, your incompletions color the way you look at the world. And since I had no reason to mistrust him, when I saw that video, it felt odd. I've been in the film business for years, and I couldn't put my finger on it, but it felt strange. And then they proved it was morphed. So there were elements in it that weren't moving correctly. So if you really paid attention, like the lab that analyzed it was able to circle the parts of the video to say, see, this does not match what's going on in the rest of the video. And my son watched it. He was a teenager. And he just sort of looked at it and said, "Well, are these guys supposed to be celibate?" And I said, "Well, in this tradition, they don't have to be. And my first guru, Paramahamsa Yogananda, his teacher, Sri Yukteswar, was a householder, raised a family, and his guru, Lahiri Mahasai, very famous, he was a direct disciple of Mahavatar Babaji, the immortal. He was married and raised a family. So it's up to each individual whether they're going to follow the celibate path or the householder path. And so my son just went, well, then I don't know what the big deal is. And he just shrugged and walked away. And that's coming from a complete state. That's when you look at the world and you see the world. But some of the people in the Calgary meditation group, some of the women just were enraged. They blew immediately. And I knew it, you can't trust men. And they left the group. And one of them actually left her husband because he wouldn't renege on Nithyananda. He still believed in him. And so I asked him, I said, does she have issues with men? And he went, big time. Like, her father screwed around on the mom, and so she's just always waiting for a man to screw around on you. And so when there was an allegation that that's what Swamiji was doing, she just, I knew it, and left. And sort of, it's so sad that she has missed out on someone so profound because of an incompletion sitting inside her that she has not dealt with about her parents. And so it's very important when you do see these things, if you get on the internet and you start Googling Paramahamsa Nithyananda, you're going to see a plethora of up and happy, sad, mad, angry, deliriously ecstatic. So use your own common sense, be diligent, understand that you can't trust the media. You need to trust your own instincts, and go to YouTube, go to the Nithyananda channel and watch his discourses. See what this avatar is saying. See if it resonates in you. If it doesn't resonate in you, then keep seeking. Don't stop seeking. We're all spiritual beings here. So you are supposed to find a guru to lead you through this life. And if it's not Nithyananda, then just keep looking. But please don't let media tell you what to do in your life, because it's been proven over and over again, especially with the corruption around these wars that have been staged and held, that you can't trust the media. It's bought and sold. It's not pure journalism anymore. You need to go out and live your own life and form your own opinions and follow your gut instincts, especially when it comes to your spiritual life, because you are a spiritual being having a human existence. You aren't a human dabbling in spirituality. This body will come and go, but when you make your connection with your guru, you are with him through eternity. And the bodies leave, come back. It's all a game. It's all a Leela. So that was my Nithyananda Leela around that whole sex scandal, and it just brought me to the most magnificent avatar on the planet. And I hope it can do the same for you. With that, I'll close with the Purna mantra. Thank you for listening. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purna Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sarvam Sakuru Paruka Paramastu. Om Nithyanandam.